In your investigations, have you found evidence or indications involving Brazilian companies in the supply of weapons, goods, or raw materials used against the Palestinian people?
Oh, yeah. I did investigate Brazil Petroleum.
Petrobras.
Petrobras, sorry. I investigated Petrobras, which does transfer, which is one of the businesses that has allowed powering the killing machine of Israel during the genocide, and it continues. And it's interesting that Brazil, South Africa, and Colombia, and the three states that have been the most vocal against the genocide are the ones transferring these natural resources that power Israel's economy and in fact power Israel's military power. It's interesting because this is where you see the dilemma of the current world. I don't think that, for example, that these countries are hypocritical because they say one thing and then they do another thing. It's really the nature of our modern states, where there are economic powers that do what they want. I mean, in Colombia, the president had ordered the cessation of transfer of coal to Israel, and it continued because the local company Drummond was transferring the fossil fuel no matter what. And then he passed a decree. But again, companies are so powerful that can bypass state laws and state authorities by connecting to local mafias or by exerting powers through their lobbies in countries. This is the dilemma I came to realize, Breno, through this report on the economy of occupation that has turned into an economy of genocide, that in fact states are somewhat a fiction in that masquerades the power that multinationals and multinational interests, particularly connected to natural resources exploitation, the control of weapons, the control of large finances and capitals, and the control of algorithms. All this is the power that spreads, and the headquarters of it is in the United States, with some proxies in Europe, and many smaller proxies and vassals around the world. But why? This is why states count till a certain point. Like us, ordinary citizens who do not control these four things, our decision-making power is valid till a certain point, unless we unite and activate our power, our critical mass against this system that puts profit before human life on a systemic and widespread basis.
What's your opinion about the BDS boycott, the investment and sanctions movement?
It's quite smart. It's quite smart, quite articulated. It took me a while to fully understand the BDS movement. It's a totally valid cause, what they are called. It's the closest movement I've seen calling for the application of international law. People might not know that, as I didn't know, but the BDS, the boycott, the divest and sanction, which is an articulation of what I said. International law imposes obligation on member states not to aid and assist, so to cut ties from states that commit international crimes, wrongdoings and crimes. Businesses are obliged to divest, and citizens are called upon not being complicit themselves. So BDS makes total sense. And this movement started after the International Court of Justice decision on the construction of the wall in occupied West Bank, which was completely ignored by member states. And this is when the BDS picked up, also building on the experience of global solidarity helping to dismantle apartheid South Africa. And the genocide has given impetus to the BDS movement because it has conscientized the people on what Palestine is. There is no going back. I mean, Israel has lost its PR war, although continues to invest billions of dollars probably to make sure that it's that the truth tellers are shut up. But from students, scholars, journalists, and of course there is a lot of cowardice in the world. But the BDS has given somewhat, it has given teeth to those who don't want to be complicit with Israel's crimes and the crimes of Israel's accomplices, and and so I think it's good. It's a good idea, and it's a philosophy. It's a Palestine-led movement, so it's very good.
Could it work?
It's working. It's
okay.
working.
What is your opinion on the behavior, on the approaching of the media about the Palestinian genocide?
As in other genocides, there are media outlets who have enabled the genocide by this, and this is clear in the betrayal of the essential function of journalism. Journalism is to bring the facts to the people. They are the bridge between the people and what happens outside. So they should reproduce the facts as they are. Even better if they go deeper and broader, and they enlighten also beyond the chronicling what are the root causes. I do believe that there has been at least a triple betrayal. The facts have not always been represented for what they were. For example, what was happening in Gaza was not represented. Second, in many occasions, facts that had never taken place were amplified, like the beheading of 40 babies on October 7. Look, the crimes that Palestinians committed against Israeli civilians on October 7 were appalling. They didn't need to be further accentuated with lies. Why? I think that this is also a betrayal of the victims and the survivors. It seems that what they have suffered was not enough to trigger compassion or to trigger reaction. So, but also over time, they have used the dehumanizing language, always referring to the Israeli government narrative. I wouldn't say the Israeli narratives, because over time there have been Israeli voices, like I was saying, Eyal Weizman, or Professor Omar Bartov, Professor Amos Goldberg, and others, or B'Tselem, and human rights, Physicians for Human Rights. There have been so many Israelis, or also these few, but still not to be invisibilized, Israelis who spend their life in the West Bank trying to be a protective presence between their fellow nationals, Israeli soldiers and settlers, and the Palestinians. Do you see them in the Israeli media? Occasionally. While what has been replicated over and over, yes, but Israel, you say that it's genocide, yes, but the Israeli government says that it's not. Who cares? Have you ever seen a criminal admitting to be a criminal before trial? No. And what it's so stupid to say, oh, but Israel is not in agreement with you. Well, Israel should stop committing acts that look very much like genocide and have brought it to be in front of an international court, which in fact recognized the plausibility of the acts within 15 days. So again, it's been so pathetic what the media has done. Western media, state-owned media. It's tragic.
How do you assess the actions of the so-called Global South countries in condemning and acting against Palestinian genocide?
We have entered a new phase, I think. The Global South is as divided as ever. We are not in the post-decolonization era. We are in the post-Cold War era, which is yesterday I was reading, I can't remember the source, but it was saying at the end of the Cold War, it's not democracy which won, it was just capitalism. While the capital, I'm not against capitalism per se, I'm against unfettered capitalism. When it goes above the rules, above human rights treaties, this is not good. And so this is Africa and many African countries are no longer in that decolonization mood. They have entered the capital system, and they're also their governments are sensitive to the influences from abroad. Does it reflect the will of the people? I don't know. I know for a fact, because I'm reading studies in this respect, that demonstrate how pervasive, as I was saying, is the infiltration of Christian Zionism through churches in African countries, but also in Latin America. I've seen myself the Israeli flags in churches, in remote villages. So I don't think that there is a united global South, but also powerful states. Yes, you have South Africa or Brazil in the global majority, very strong against Israel's crimes. But then you have states like India, who goes hand in hand with the Israeli regime. And in fact, it's using the same weapons, it's exchanging intelligence, know-how. Same thing like in Europe, not European Union, but in the European continent. Serbia, look at Serbia, very close to the Israeli government. So it's difficult to say today.
I'd like to be more precise.
Sorry, Breno, the difference is the people. Today, that can be a real globalized movement, united horizontally with students and people who find themselves united against one need. They want justice for themselves and for others. So probably this is the humanistic movement that we have been longing for intellectually for decades.